Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at quite a few new releases. We have the new eye crayons from Victoria Beckham. This is the spring summer collection. We have the two most recent shades of the Sisley Phyto Rouge lipstick, the new Violet FR. This is the new blush in Melanie. And we also have the new Christian Dior bronzer, and I have shade 32 pink bronze. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with the bronzer. So first, take a look at the packaging here. It is really beautiful. This is going to be fabric. Oh, I just realized I have lipstick on my finger, so let's make sure I don't get that on the case. That is the number one problem with having a fabric covered case is you're never really going to truly be able to clean it. So that is kind of a drawback to it, but it is gorgeous. And, you know, it's a really nice, feels like a nicely upholstered chair, essentially. And then we have the shimmery gold threads here for Christian Dior. So we do have a click closure. So there's a little opening for your finger here. We have a full-size mirror. And this is the shade 32 pink bronze. Now, this center portion here is shimmery. So I did wipe that away. I wiped pretty far just to make sure it wasn't an overcoat or top coat here. And I wanted to see whether the shimmer went all the way through. So we have matte, we have kind of a matte pink, and then this center brick portion is a little bit deeper, and that is actually going to be shimmery, and it goes all the way throughout, it seems. So let me go ahead and try to swatch those portions individually. It's pretty impossible to get just the pink. The pink line is very, very thin. So that's kind of, I'm going to get as much as I can here, but it's really, it doesn't make a huge difference. And then the deeper portion here, you can see has that shimmery sheen. It's a little bit deeper. But for primary use, you're going to be mixing these all together. And this is what it'll look like here. So when you pile it on, you will see a bit of that sheen, that shimmer on the cheek. So this is 32. Let's move on to the demo. So this bronzer is limited edition. We have a 1-year shelf life, 8 grams of product, and it is made in France. Overall, the texture of this feels very nice. It has kind of a, you know, one of those gel to powder formula type of textures. And it feels very velvety and smooth on the skin. There's really no powder kick up with this. And again, because of that center portion, you're going to have more of a satin sheen that when you build this up more, you're going to get more of a shimmery bronze look. Now, this particular shade, I have to say, is a bit warmer than I was expecting. There are definitely some oranger undertones in here. The pink is, you know, really honestly, the pink makes no difference whatsoever. But if you were to isolate that pink, it is a pretty neutral pink. Let's do just a few bronzer comparisons. This one here is the new YSL bronzer in shade number 1. We're going to put this one right here vertically so you can see how this shade compares. Texturally, between the two, the YSL feels more like a velvet powder, whereas this feels kind of like a velvety gel to powder formula. This here is the Gucci bronzer in shade number 1, and we'll put that one right here. You can see it's going to be significantly cooler and rosier than the Dior. This is the Bobbi Brown bronzer in light, and this is the new one that they recently released. You can see it's a little bit more nude versus the Dior, which just has a little bit more of that orangey hue to it. This is the Surratt in Soleil Clair, and this is one of my favorites. So I use this one quite a bit, but you can see, again, this one's got a little bit more red in there. It's going to be a cooler shade. It's also a little bit deeper, and it has more brown. This here is the Guerlain Terracotta Flower Blossom bronzer. And this is pretty similar to their medium shade. You can see this is going to be significantly more orange. This is the Surratt in Soleil Deux. And let's go ahead and put that one right next to the Surratt in Soleil Clair. You can see here that this one's a little bit warmer in tone. It doesn't have that red, but it's still pretty neutral. And then this is the Guerlain Terracotta in light. So let me go ahead and put that one right here. We'll put that right next to the Flower Blossom. You can see it's going to be a little bit lighter, But again, compared to the Dior, it's going to be a bit more orange. However, this one is probably the closest one to the Dior 32. So I hope these comparisons are helpful. Overall, I'd have to say that the Dior bronzer has a beautiful texture. I really love the way that it goes on, the way that it performs. It really kisses the skin beautifully. It's not patchy. You can build it up. You can wear it lightly. But I do wish the color was a little bit cooler. I think bronzers often, for people with a complexion like mine, I have neutral undertone with cooler overtones. So I'm neutral leaning cool. And a lot of bronzers, it's hard to find one that doesn't turn too orange or too golden. And that's why the Gucci is so great. And that's why I also love this Soleil Claire from Surat, because those both have a hint of red, which is a bit more natural for my complexion. If you have a warmer undertone than I do, then the Dior would end up being a beautiful color. But unfortunately for me, it's a little bit too orange for regular use. However, I think it does look nice, very softly kissed on the cheeks, kind of right here just for a little bit. But if I do like the full bronzy motion, then it looks a little bit too orange for me. But blending it in a little bit with a blush, I think with a lighter hand, looks very nice with this shade. So in summation, if there is a color there that works for you, I think the formula is really great. But if not, I hope that these comparisons help you find a good color. Next, let's move on to the Violette FR Bisou blushes. I have to say, I love this blush formula. It's a really great cream blush stick. So we do have the dual opening here. So on the side that matches the body here, we have a brush, and this is removable. So you can twist off the brush head here and, clean that. So I love that feature. And that would be that end. When you pull off the gold cap, you get your color here. And these are marbled. So you really get, kind of like a really beautiful shade, but they're not so marbled with such drastic colors that you can't get consistent results every time you use it, which can be an issue sometimes with marble products. Sometimes you get one part that's a little bit deeper than the next side. Maybe it's a little bit lighter. This is pretty consistent, but the shades really meld to work pretty naturally. So let's go ahead and take a look at our newest shade here. And this is Melanie. And we'll just kind of have a lighter buffed version here. And this is really going to be more of a soft coral. So I think it's a really beautiful shade. I think this is a shade that will work well for a lot of people. I'm really happy with this shade. I think it gives just the right pop. And corals, being a mix of pink and orange, sometimes we see some that are too orange, sometimes too pink. This one's pretty much smack dab in the middle, so it's a true coral. So let's take a look at the demo, and then we'll swatch the other shades in the collection. Now, this blush stick, it's a matte cream blush with the brush. We have 7 grams of product. It's made in Italy, and there's a 2-year shelf life. These have a very, they're a firm cream texture, so it's not so soft that if you were to press the stick into your cheek that you would deform it in any way, but it glides on very seamlessly and smoothly. There's no tugging when you glide this on. Now, that being said, I do prefer actually applying this by putting a little bit on my finger and then tapping it on as I show you in the demo, but you can also definitely swipe it directly on the cheek, blend it out with a finger or a brush, and you get a really beautiful finish with that as well. So I love these blushes because they hold up all day. They're not greasy or tacky on the skin. There's no texture. Like, you don't really feel it. It feels a little bit more, maybe more like a lightweight moisturizer when you start tapping that in, like a gel moisturizer. But, it really kind of sets, and then they stay put all day. And I just think they're beautiful colors. So let's take a look at the other shades. So this one here is Louise. And this is probably my most used. This is our nude natural shade. And you can see it is kind of a very soft, kind of like a nude dusty rose. So I think this is a really great shade, and this is probably the one that I use the most. Now, Inez, this is going to be a soft pink. You can see it's a really beautiful pop of pink, but it's not too bright. And this is going to be more of a neutral rose shade that leans a little warm. So we do have a little bit of warmth in here. but it's a pretty neutral pink. And again, really great shade. And then last up we have Aisa, which is a really pretty berry shade. I mean, look at this. I love how this one is marbled. Now, note, we do have a larger, difference between the colors here, a bit more of a drastic difference between that deep kind of burgundy berry and the soft pink that's marbled in there. But when you blend that out, all it really does is kind of give you just a little bit of light reflection from the pink. It blends out beautifully. So you can see this is really more of a, I would say it's in between a crushed blackberry and a cranberry. So these are the 4 shades. We've got Melanie, Louise, Inez, and Aisa. And I think it's a great collection. All right, let's move on to the Victoria Beckham eye crayons. So I have her other eye crayons and I really like them. And these ones here, I think are a great addition to the line. Let's go ahead and swatch these. Let's start off with, well, let's go in the order that I did the eye swatches. So we're gonna start off with the pink, which is called Ballet. And this is gonna be a soft kind of metallic pink. I'm just gonna kind of swipe these on my hand here so you can see them. And let me just kind of smudge out a little bit. You can see this has some shimmer. It is a soft Ballet pink. I think they did a great job naming that. So it's a little bit of a warm pink. It's pretty neutral, leaning warm with a bit of shimmer in there. And when you buff out that shimmer, you see just a little bit of gold in there. Then we have this blue here. And this is called Cornflower. This one's matte. And look at that. Really beautiful blue here, Cornflower blue. And when you put these on, you want to do one eye at a time because they set fairly quickly. So just something to know. And then my favorite of the 3 is called Shroom. And this was described as, off the top of my head, I want to say it was like a weathery gray. It's not. It's really going to be more of a taupe. It's definitely more brown. And again, I have neutral undertones. If you have warmer undertones, you'll see a little bit more of like a purpley hue in here. But for me, it's a pretty much straight up kind of fawn brown with a touch of gray. So it's pretty much a taupe. So both Shroom and Ballet have shimmer in there. You can see that the Ballet, the shimmer is going to lean warmer, a little bit of gold, whereas Shroom is going to be a silver shimmer. And then our Cornflower is a matte blue. So let's look at the eye swatches. Now, I did the eye swatches where you could see them kind of buffed out with a finger. That's my favorite way to use these eye crayons, or you can buff it out with a brush as well. But I personally like to use a finger and then just kind of go in with a crease brush afterwards and kind of buff that out a little bit more. These, again, they feel very silky and smooth gliding on, and then they don't budge. So I actually think they must have tinkered with the formula a little bit since I received the first batch, because the staying power on these is it's a little bit better than the first ones were. So, I mean, just even getting the swatches off my hand, if you leave it on for a few minutes, it's like pretty hard. So, I mean, I had a hard time getting them off when I did my Instagram reel for that. So just something to note there. They really will stay put. Definitely do one eye at a time. Now, the blue is pretty opaque. So if you're trying to make a purple with the blue and the pink, it doesn't really work. Whether you put the pink first, the blue first, or you try and mix them on your hand together, they just don't really mix too well to create that purple. And as sheer as the pink one appears to be, because it is light, if you put that one on top of the Cornflower blue, you'll see it has its own level of opacity. So it's actually pretty opaque itself. So it looks kind of sheer and light when you use it on its own, but it has a bit more opacity than you might expect. So these shades don't really mix so well together to create new shades, but they do layer together very nicely. You can definitely blend and buff edges very neatly. So these eyewear, long wear crease-proof eyeshadow sticks from Victoria Beckham have an 18-month shelf life. They're made in Italy and we have 1.6 grams of product. Now let's take a look at just a few comparisons. And the first one I want to show you is actually the blue from the Chanel Rivage quad. I've gotten quite a few requests to look at this one. So let's go ahead and swatch that there, and you can see how different the blues are. We basically have, I mean, this is a true cornflower blue versus more of a sky blue with a little bit more, first of all, it's got sheen to it, but it's more of that sky blue with a little bit more green in the base there than the true cornflower blue. So just something to note there. And while we're looking, we might as well just take a look at the kind of brown shade here from that quad too and see how that compares to Shroom. You can see that it's going to be a bit warmer. There's more of a golden hue to that one than Shroom. So I'm not going to go ahead and swatch all of the Victoria Beckham eye crayons, but I did want to swatch a few key ones from the previous launch. So this one here is called Macaron, and this is going to be a matte pink. So let's go ahead and put this one here. And you can see it's going to be a cooler tone pink compared to Ballet. And again, it's going to have a matte finish like the cornflower blue. So actually these two look so nice together. I really like those. And yeah, I mean, again, blending it to make a purple isn't that easy, but you can kind of buff those edges and get a purpley hue with those two. And then I also wanted to take a look at this one here. This is Pecan. And let's go ahead and put this one right here. You can see that this is going to be a warmer, true brown here, and we've got those golden undertones in there. And another Victoria Beckham, this one here is the shade Caramel. So let's go ahead and we're going to put this one right here next to Shroom, and you can see that this is going to be a warmer version here. And this is more of a golden brown with some shimmer. Really beautiful shade though. So if you're looking for a warmer version, I'd highly recommend the shade Caramel. Now, just a few comparisons with the taupe shade here. Now, this is my hourglass. You can see it has kind of broken, but this one here is going to be the shade. Oh my goodness, why can I never find the shades on the Hourglass products? I don't know if that is just me or what. This one is Equinox. It's on the bottom. No wonder I couldn't find it. So Equinox here. Let's put this one right up here. You can see this is going to be warmer. This is more similar to Caramel, but it's even more golden than Caramel from Victoria Beckham. And then we've got a couple Bobbi Brown ones here. This one here is Mica. And you know what? I'm gonna swatch these down here, and then we'll put a new swatch of the Victoria Beckham. So this is Mica from Bobbi Brown, and this is Shroom from Victoria Beckham. So you can see the difference there. Mica is going to be more of a golden pewter, which I think is a really interesting shade. We don't see shades like that one too often because you've still got a little bit of that cooler molten pewter. And then you've got the gold in there as well to warm it up. So it's pretty neutral. And then my most used shade from Bobbi Brown is actually this one here, which is Smoky Topaz. And you can see this is going to be a little bit more brown, whereas you can see more of that like purpley hue in the Victoria Beckham. So just pretty different. This is more like neutral with a little bit of purple, whereas this is more straight up neutral brown with a little bit of golden shimmer in there. So you do have a bit of that golden warmth on top of this one. And then a couple other ones. This is the Sisley stick in #1 Topaz, which I have repurchased several times. It's such a great shade, but you can see this is also going to be warmer in tone. And it's a little bit more brown, like more of a reddish brown than the Smoky Topaz. It's a little bit warmer overall than that one, but these are all kind of similar to each other. And then we have the By Terry, and this is the #4 Bronze Moon, which is my favorite from By Terry. And you can see that that is going to be closer to Smoky Topaz from Bobbi Brown. So those are my comparisons for the eye sticks. Let's go ahead and move on to the lipsticks. So Sisley recently released 2 new shades of the Phyto Rouge lipsticks. I love these lipsticks, but I was kind of in lipstick overload. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to purchase these. I'm not going to purchase these. Well, Selfridges Global Shipping has upped their shipping minimum to $100. And you know, I ended up picking these up when I needed to increase my shipping costs. So we have 201 Rose Tokyo, And this is going to be, it's described like as a warm rose, but you can see it's definitely warm. It's rosy, but it's also got a little bit of terracotta in there. So yeah, it's kind of like a soft brick rose. And I think it's a really beautiful shade. It's a great everyday shade, particularly for people with warmer undertones. And then the shade that really interested me was this red. This is Rouge Milano. And I mean, this is just such a great neutral red. So we've got a little bit of blue in the undertone, but it's really not that significant. It's a pretty neutral red. So I think the way this is done, we've got kind of a mix of your red in there, but you also have a little bit of orange or brick in there. And I think that having those nuances is really going to allow this shade to work well for a variety of skin tones. So these are the two shades that were released. I have to say, I think they are gorgeous. Let's look at the lip swatches. If you're not familiar with this formula, this is one of my favorite lipstick formulas personally, because they're very smooth and silky going on. And you know, it's classic. Yeah, I just think they are fantastic. So we have 3.4 grams of product, and these are made in Italy. They don't have a shelf life or anything like that written on the lipsticks, but I have had some of these for many years and no issues, no change in quality or anything yet. So they definitely hold up very well over time. And I have to say, I love the faceted bullet. So take a look at the bullet shape here. You know, it really makes it easy to apply your color and get precision around the lip lines, which is really helpful with shades like the Rouge Milano, you know, just to get some precision without necessarily having to use a lip brush. So I have to say, these are fantastic. They do come with a little velour cover. Honestly, I never use those. So yeah, these are them. So overall, I have to say we've got some great new products this time. Let's go over a quick summary of everything. We've started off with the bronzer from Dior, and I have to say I think it's gorgeous packaging. I think it is gorgeous inside, but it still runs a bit warmer than I was hoping for. I feel like some of the pictures made it look a little bit cooler than it is. Formula, however, is great. So if you do have a warmer undertone, or you're looking for kind of that warmer kind of bronzer with a little bit of orange in there, not too orange, I think this is really nice. If you have a complexion like mine, I think using a very light hand with this does give a really nice accent. And yeah, so overall, I think it's a nice product, but it's not the perfect shade for me. Then we went and we spoke about the Violette FR blushes. We've got the new shade Melanie, which honestly I think is a beautiful coral shade. I think this is probably going to end up, this might be the one I use the most. I might end up using this one more than Louise. Louise I use all the time because it's so neutral, natural looking, but I love this pop of coral, and it's got just the perfect balance between pink and orange. So I think it's a really beautiful shade, perfect for spring and summer. So really happy with that. And then we talked about the Victoria Beckham eyeshadow sticks, which I really like these. So I think all three of these shades are great. My favorite is going to be Shroom, because I am always a sucker for those colors, as you can tell by the number of comparisons I have. So this is definitely going to be a great one that's going to go into my rotation. On days when I'm not filming, I go for quick and easy makeup a lot of times. And yeah, I've been reaching for eye crayons a lot. So I've been using the Sisley one in Topaz a lot, and I think I'm going to be replacing it with this one here now because it is a bit cooler. And yeah, I have to say I really, really like that one. And then the new Sisley lipsticks, you can't go wrong with this formula. If these are colors that you're looking for in your collection, you know, they are fantastic. Now I did purchase mine through Selfridges, which is a little bit less expensive than the US. So just something to note here. But I think that the Rouge Tokyo or Rose Tokyo is a really beautiful warm rose for, you know, it's great everyday shade, particularly for warmer undertones. I could see that being like an everyday shade. Even for my complexion though, it still works. I think it's a really beautiful kind of warmer rose shade. The Rouge Milano, it's a pretty perfect red in my opinion. So I think this is definitely going to go into, you know, kind of my top 5 reds category, because I've been kind of missing something that is this neutral yet still has those nuances in there. So I'm really happy with those. So let me know what your thoughts are on all these products, whether you picked any of these up. I'd love to hear them down below in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you very soon. Have a wonderful day.